Well, hi and welcome to another in the series of INLIT interviews. Today I'm delighted to be chatting with Daniel Marrene, the Energy Solutions Architect from Engie Generation Europe. Daniel, good afternoon. Hi.
Good afternoon. Hello.
I know we've got mutual connections with CO2 Value Europe.
Yes.
They're an association which is supporting INLIT Europe, which we're delighted to have, and of course their main interest is in the field of carbon capture and utilization, which is what I want to talk to you about today. So I guess my first question really is, I mean, not everybody's deeply familiar with it, but what is carbon capture and utilization? How do you define it?
Maybe the easiest way to define it is today everybody is considering CO2 as a waste, but in fact in carbon capture and utilization, CO2 will not be anymore a waste. It will be a feedstock for a new economy. So in fact the basic for the circular economy of the CO2, I would tell it like this. So two ways to make CCU. So the way of mineralization, where you create blocks, for instance, of concrete or things like that with CO2. Another way is the e-fuels, where in fact combining this CO2 with hydrogen, you recreate fuels with the same characteristic as the current fuels.
Okay, so we see it as a positive rather than a negative problem to have to deal with. Yeah. So, I mean, in your opinion, why is carbon capture and usage such an important element of the overall energy transition? How does it sort of tie in?
So basically, when you see the timeline that where we need to be CO2 neutral in so 30 years from now, in fact, you really need to leverage on all what is existing, and in fact all the existing infrastructure was built during the last decades, and all these infrastructure was based on carbon fuel. And when you use back the CO2 to recreate carbon fuels, in fact after you can use these fuels in all the existing economy infrastructure. And so it means you will win a lot of time and money in the transition by leveraging on all these infrastructure and all these processes. So that's why I believe that the carbon capture and utilization is really key if we want to succeed in the objective of carbon neutrality of 2050. We have no time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and because this our current season within INLIT Europe, we've been focusing on the renewable energy side. So could you just kind of explain the tie-in, the connection between renewable energy and carbon capture?
So, in fact, when you produce renewable energy, you create, as you know, lots of electricity, which is undispatchable. So, and then you have to use it when it's created, I would say. And the major problem that we see today is the adequacy, because basically what will happen is that when you increase the production of renewable electricity, there will be a moment where this electricity will be produced and there will be no off-taker. Because today the economy is not flexible enough to really match with I would say an undispatchable source of energy. It's not really that the grid is not strong enough, because in fact there is already some margin into the grid, but the real problem is that the usage of electricity is not flex enough. And so if you want to increase the penetration of renewable, you need absolutely to increase the use of electricity with flexible items. And this one is hydrogen. Per definition, you can create the hydrogen when you have a lot of renewable electricity, and then you can use this hydrogen in I would say as a feedstock for something, or as a fuel. So not to recreate electricity, because this today makes not so much sense, because you lose efficiency, but really you transform your electricity into a valuable product, which is hydrogen. The problem is that you need today to use this hydrogen. Although the majority of the hydrogen uses of today is baseload. So you have a fluctuating source of energy. You create a fluctuating hydrogen, and you need to use it in a baseload process, which is, in fact, you have the same problem, how to adapt the production of green hydrogen to the baseload use of the industry today. So you need to store, but the problem is hydrogen is a very difficult molecule to store, and in fact CCU makes it storable, because I don't know if you can tell it like this, but in fact when you transform this this hydrogen into an hydro molecule, so a hydrocarbonate molecule like methane, like methanol, like even kerosene if you want, you can store it. You can store it for a long period. So in fact, after to use it in adequacy with a process or with mobility or whatever, it's easy because you have storage capacity. So you see that once more, having today a complete infrastructure already done to store all these hydrocarbonate products is useful now for the future. So that's why it's really key to develop all this CCU economy, because you can then develop much faster the renewable energy in general.
Understood. That's very clear and a great explanation. So CCU sounds like it's something we should be doing, but I guess we're not doing it at scale. What are the kind of barriers that are stopping wider deployment of CCU at the moment?
So I would say that the basic and the most difficult barrier that we see today is to make sure that this molecule made from a CO2 will be eligible as a carbon neutral product, because this is not yet completely admitted by everybody. So when you make the balance of the CO2 at the end, you see that there is a real economy of CO2, but it's not yet act that this is carbon neutral. And when it will be act, then we enter in the market of the carbon neutral fuels, which is a dedicated market where, in fact, at the end, it's the best option will be the one which will develop the most. So, in fact, the barrier for me for CCU is not really technical. It is a bit, of course, economical, but the biggest challenge is to get a label that this is carbon neutral, because then I'm sure we can find market already today that are ready to pay, even if it's 3, 4, 6 times more expensive than other products, because it's simple carbon neutral, and the people are waiting for carbon neutral solution, because we all are on the same boat and we need to have carbon neutral economy at the end. So there are some sectors where I think the people are ready to pay for a premium for a carbon neutral, because at the end it saves the planet and it saves their children.
Yeah, indeed, and so many businesses are on that trajectory towards zero carbon, and I guess they would be the market for this.
Indeed.
So either a premium product, or I suppose the other way of looking at it would be to put some sort of tax on, you know, non-carbon.
Yeah. But the tax, personally, that's my personal feeling, is tax is always with a negative view. I would prefer a positive vision of the carbon transition, where in fact go to market where the people are ready to pay. That's, I think it is better. That's why I'm more in favor of a label, because basically I'm quite convinced that we can develop market like that. Of course, after you need to have some more, I would say, strength constraint that you need to go to. You are obliged to go to carbon neutrality, which is not. It is between a tax and an imposition, I would say. So you need to do it. So you have no choice. So that's what I think we have to do. That's my personal feeling, and of course creating the label and putting some incentive at the beginning. It's really key to start this economy. But when it started, I think there will be a natural rollout because everybody wants to be carbon neutral at the end.
Great. Well, more carrot, less stick in this case. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So, of the different options for CCU, which other technologies do you think are offering the most promise at the moment?
In fact, that's a very good question, and I would say within Engie, for us it's still not clear which is the most attractive or business model. So methane, for instance, could be a solution because it gives a quick way to decarbonize the majority of the industry, because majority of industry is using today methane. On the other hand, you can say that methanol could be a quite interesting way, because it is I would say, the feedstock for all the plastic industry. You can start all the plastic industry with this feedstock as methanol. For aviation, we know that we need kerosene. So would the kerosene be also most attractive? Perhaps. It depends on the imposition. So you see that, in fact, today, I would say all the routes for CCU are interesting, and for different reasons. And once more, it would be a little bit the market who will decide who is the preferred one or the not preferred one. If suddenly there is a big demand from the industry to be carbon neutral, and the e-methane is the solution, then e-methane will win. If it's for plastic, then the methanol will win. If it's the aviation, then kerosene will win at the beginning. So you see, it's really today. I think we have to go in this different direction, and we will see.
Sure. Now I know that Engie is involved in one of these projects themselves in Belgium. I think, is it called the Columbus project?
Yes, indeed.
Can you tell us something about that?
So in fact, the Columbus project is a project to produce e-methane, so to develop this route of carbon neutrality, and conceptually it's based on an unavoidable source of CO2 that we capture. Is coming from a lime industry, because as you may know, the CO2, 80% of the CO2 coming from the lime industry is unavoidable CO2, because it's a processed CO2, and so you have no choice than to emit this CO2. And so we decided to use this source of CO2 as a CO2 for our methanation project, because also the big advantage is that this sources is really very location. The location is clear on one feedstock, so you can with a not that expensive way concentrate this CO2 and use this CO2, because basically the concentration of CO2 is key, and so that's why we have decided to go with this CO2 to create e-methane, because we strongly believe that methane is one of the key player for the future, and that's a bit the aim of this Columbus project. So have everything together, the carbon neutral lime, and create a carbon neutral fuel for, in fact, all the industry and eventually also mobility, because methane, as you know, can be used also for mobility like marine, LNG ship, or even the mobility, the heavy duty mobility today in Europe. There are already some LNG and CNG trucks.
And so what scale is this on, and who's involved in the project?
So the scale is, you know, the demonstration scale with 1 or 2 megawatt electrolyzer were already done. So this is not more a topic we know that could work. So technically it's okay. No, the real challenge is scaling up and find off-taker as a utility scale, I would say, size. And we are scaling that at 75 megawatt electrolyzer to produce 250 gigawatt hour of e-methane per year. So 250 gigawatt hour is already the consumption of a quite big industry. So you see that with that we can propose to big industry to be directly carbon neutral, because we will produce a carbon neutral gas, they can use it, and they are carbon neutral de facto. So the basic is large scale.
It is indeed. And just a word about the partners who you're collaborating with.
So the partners, so we have 2 partners. So John Cockerill, which is a well-known company active in electrolyzers. So they are one of the key players of electrolyzer in worldwide, and active in Wallonia, where we are doing this project. And the second partner is Carmeuse. Carmeuse is one of the biggest lime producer of the world. So he has implementation everywhere in the world, and it's also a Walloon-based group. And the good thing is that they had developed a dedicated kiln to concentrate the CO2. So it was a good match. We were looking for concentrated CO2, and they were coming with a solution to use to concentrate the CO2 at the lime kiln. So we said, okay, let's do business together.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a great project, and we'll certainly be following the progress of that. I've learned a great deal from our chat today. I mean, I guess the final question is just to ask you to make that link between, you know, the creation of what people call a hydrogen backbone as part of the energy transition, and how does that link with CCU? How would you sum that up?
So I think, you know, to create a hydrogen backbone, you need to have hydrogen off-taker, because it makes no sense to create a backbone without user of hydrogen. In fact, CCU could be seen as the real first big and very large-scale market for hydrogen green hydrogen uses in Europe. So by connecting different CCU projects in Europe, you would de facto create a hydrogen backbone. The advantage when you when you make CCU with hydrogenation of CO2 is also you have some losses, and these losses are heat. In fact, you can use this heat to help for the capturing of the CO2 in majority of the case. So there is a real synergy between CCU and hydrogen backbone, because you use the hydrogen to bring somehow the energy to a site where you have CO2, and with this energy you can make e-fuels, and in parallel you can capture the CO2 needed for this e-fuel. So it's really a very nice synergy between both.
That's a great positive way to end our conversation. Daniel Marrene from Engie Generation, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for talking to Engie Europe today.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.